I think it's going to possibly be a bit too tough, however, today, because when you look at the profile of that last test, we spent an awful lot of time yesterday erroneously doing it, but we're talking ramps of 16, 17% on occasion. It's nasty.
It is nasty, however, it's only 400 metres long.
Yep.
Or, as they might say in Holland, 4,000 centimetres.
That's right. From the European road race, exactly.
It kind of puts it into perspective. So it'll be a bit of a wall, but probably, as it's in town, you'll be able to see it pretty well. And
if my memory serves me right, you actually go out of town up to some kind of fortification. So it's a defensive mound is what we're dealing with.
So there'll be people at the top throwing bricks and boiling oil and whatever down below.
Boiling whatever it is, yeah. They didn't used to waste the oil. Anyway, we've done that one. I don't want to dwell on that too much. The point is, Pippa, we've got to take it twice.
Yes, so everybody sees what it's like. Are you going to attack there? Does it open up possibilities of doing that for somebody like Mati Mohoric? Well, we'll have to see how the race develops up until then. So far, Ineos are pretty confident just having one rider and Luke Plapp just chasing on the front, and everybody else has kind of settled down into that rhythm of just watching what he does. So there's 5 riders in the front, and Luke Plapp is perfectly in control of them for the moment.
I've got a feeling that this, because it is slightly more gnarly stage today, in fact, it's reflected in the altitude gain that we've got. It's 1,804 metres. It means that it's less certain for a bunch sprint. It might well be a selective one. It depends on how the attacking goes on, even before we get to the circuit. Now, the last time we were here, Stephen Williams, it was that beat Simon Yates on the last hill and then pushed home for victory with... he had a 10-second margin in the end, down to 13 riders. This was just 2 years ago. And that sprint was taken by Marcus Holgaard ahead of Mick van Dijk, not Dick, Mick. Mary Poppins. Yeah. So he didn't quite fly, did he? Sure, it was Brolly. But Stephen Williams it was that kind of mugged the field. But it was the nature of the day and the approach to it that meant that you found people like Simon Yates up there and gunning for it. It's your jerseys. Viviani in the red. The blue jersey is being carried by Alexander Kristoff, who's second in the points classification after Viviani. Sharan has the King of the Mountains, but I'm not sure whether he will have it at the end of today, because a man who was in the break yesterday is busy again, and that's Marvin Hammerschmidt. And I imagine that Mr. Hammerschmidt will be going reasonably well. He's just moved up into second wheel as we come up on this KOM point. They'll probably fight him for it, and one suspects that Voster ATS would actually quite like this themselves. Thank you very much. And it's Kostansky who is just starting to try and have a look-see. The road's not favouring him at the moment. About 1,200 metres to go. This can be about timing, especially on roads you're not familiar with. It's easy to get it wrong if you launch too early, even on a modest climb, isn't it?
And yesterday, remember, Marvin Hammerschmidt was the first from the break to be lost. He looked like he suffered a bit of cramps. So it's going to depend on how well he's recovered in the night. If he takes this, he's taken 3 points at the first climb. If he has to take the 6 points available here to be equal with Shuran, and then it'll be kind of count back if he doesn't manage to take any more points later on, which would be normal since we'll be onto the circuit, and the race should have kicked off properly then.
I think it will. Occasionally, it is on countback here. Occasionally they do it on who's taken the highest graded climbs along the way, but we're dealing with 2s and 3s at the moment, so don't ask me to work that one out if it had been that. Looking back through, that was Lucas Postelberger, lead-out man for Campbell Stewart, who again was balked yesterday on the barriers.
He wasn't the only one. Our whole little riders got that completely wrong, and Kahura played a blinder basically by moving up and looked like Leitao was going to lead out Aluar, and he didn't, and everybody else kind of realised there's that not even half a second, there's that temporary hesitation. You could see Christoph thinking, right, here's the wheel coming, I'll slot in behind Aluar, he will lead me out, and he sat up, and then it was, oh dear.
It was really something to watch. Tobias Lund was the biggest loser, I think, because he was sitting directly behind Aluar when he eased off. So, yeah, it was a masterstroke by CRO to release Yuri Leitao while pretending that he was leading out Aulius Alois. Alois then eased up and eased into the ambitions of everyone else who was behind him, which were all our principals. And even more so because it was a left-hander, so there was a very defined quickest line through, and they're all stacked up.
Yeah, and only Viviani realised what had happened, came around to everybody, and too late. It's too late to close the gap. And inside 100 meters, it's that the lead-out sprinter that Leitao would have to have died a death, but he didn't. It's because he'd left the sprint so late.
Well, Viviani was the clever one. He limited the damage and still leads this race. So there we are. Some. That looked like just standard bottles of water that they're going to have to unscrew, but they're probably nice and cool, so I don't think they'll mind too much. 26 Celsius, it's still lovely.
It is. Not an Indian summer, a Croatian summer.
Yeah, and they've got plenty of that round here. And as you can see, some ancient buildings as well on the old goat routes. Seen a few of those admiring the races it's gone past today. Minute and 5, solid as you are, with 62 kilometres to go. Now,
here we go.
Yeah, and a big kicker. And thankfully, it's your man, the Flying Mullet. We're going to have to call him that now. He has taken another climb and he's drawn level.
So now he, on count back or whoever, they're going to decide how this is going to work. And, he's in front. So he's won 2 climbs now. I imagine that the first day she won about 2 climbs as well. And I think they were second and thirds as well. So
that's right.
How they're going to
it'll be
work
finish
this out
orders,
would be complicated.
Yeah, whoever's in front of the other in the GC. Well, it'll be on today's stage, won't it? At the end of today, let's see how it pans out. But yeah, it's positional. It'll come down to. But he now has drawn level, so he doesn't own the jersey outright, but could do by the end of the day. There are, of course, 2 Category 3 tests still to come, but they come very, very late. Not sure the breakaway will still have its freedom then. We have this pesky peak that lies ahead. Don't worry, you're not listening to yesterday. We're saying it again. This time, we have a lovely circuit in our destination city. And once we get there to Opatia, we actually head up towards the citadel, cut alongside the wall, and then drop back into town. It's actually very fast and furious on the approach to the line. So a gap would help. It'll help everyone. It will help settle my nerves as well, quite frankly. Because when you come down off the peak, you get the Flamme Rouge, and there's some really nasty turns to be taken. There's one at about 800 metres to go. It's a full hairpin left, a very sharp hairpin. Don't go thinking it's around some enormous roundabout. No. If it is a roundabout, you take a quarter of it, so you kick back on yourself very, very quickly. We then take 3/4 of a roundabout to open us up to the run down to the 500-metre mark. There's a little chicane, a left-right, that takes us to that. Then at 300 metres, there's a 90-degree left. Better be in the right place at that point. And they still haven't finished messing around with the road. It drifts left, it drifts right, and then it comes left again before you finally get a view of the finish line. And that will only be in the last 100 metres. That's a tough finish.
I wouldn't call it tough. I'd call it probably technical if I was being polite. Dangerous if it was raining. So
crazy if it was raining. Thankfully, it's not.
Yeah, and thankfully that everybody's going to see it at least once and have an idea of how to negotiate it. But it's definitely on the technical side. So then
you only get to see it once, however. I must admit, I don't like short circuits which have like 30 laps. Sorry, Montreal, but oh, hello, a little touch of wheels here towards the back. Nothing serious by the looks of things, but a little exchange of views between teammates from Santic Vibertech, I think it is, with a W. Mostly German, but looks like Fabian Schaumeyer is okay. Just noticing to his teammate, I think it was Bartomai Prosch, but anyway, it's back and underway. Not too much drama. Yeah, when it came to circuit racing, if there's a whole raft of them, we generally tend to get them in the World Championships, don't we? I kind of think, oh my goodness, can you imagine if there's 60 laps in the World Champs? Like, wasn't that Richmond, Virginia? And then you suddenly see 38 to go. It's like, when is this going to end?
I don't mind a circuit race. I think you're talking about, a criterium race where you line up at the start and sometimes it says 90 laps of 1.2 kilometres or something like you get in Holland. That's different. World Championships and major championships tend to be between 13 and 15 kilometres.
Yeah.
So,
extrapolate
20 odd laps, 19 laps, 21 laps, something like that. You kind of get used to it.
Scares me. And I kind of think that once the fatigue sets in, you're still thinking that that's still a big number. Anyway, just one lap today. Well, it's almost a gift to be included in this race. If you happen to be a pro rider, then this is about as good as it gets. Not too much pressure. Good ride out to the season. It's almost like a warming down, isn't it, after what could have been a very busy year. But for some, like Viviani, this has been a rich picking.
It has. He's taken his first win of the year. He's had a long wait for that to happen. And his previous best was a couple of thirds. So he hasn't had a great year, but if he manages to pull up a couple of really decent results here, then he'll go into the winter knowing that he's still able to influence the races in some way.
Yeah, that's good. He's still got a year on his contract with Ineos Grenadiers, unlike a few others.
Well, we say that, however, with this current speculation between Ineos, Soudal Quickstep, Jumbo-Visma, would we be surprised that they all kind of change jerseys and change the riders that they've got on each team?
It really is silly season at the moment. The latest news, by the way, in case you're wondering what we're banging on about, is that Primož Roglic is being rumoured to entertaining the thought of moving to Ineos Grenadiers. Now, that's because of rumours that... rumours breed rumours, don't they? It's unbelievable. More than Fleetwood Mac. It's just all over the place. Not Fleetwood Mac. Here's how much money. He took it ahead of Hopkins and Weber. That was your latest climb, so 6 more to him. He's now level on top. Back to rumours. You can go your own way. I'm not going to stop that now. But who is going to go their own way?
Who knows? When you look at it and you think, would it be in Jumbo's Visma's interest to let Primož Roglic go to another team, considering he wins 10 to 15 races a year for them? Do they want to ride against him?
That's the point.
But then it comes into that category of there's European employment law involved in this, and you have the right to break your contract even if you've signed something that says you can't. There's to be a buyout clause for sure, but even with that you can leave because you can be an unhappy employee. So although sporting kind of regulations have certain applications in this, overall it's governed by European law, and if you want to leave, you can leave.
There you go. So, is he angry enough about what happened in the Vuelta, being asked to support Sepp Kuss, to go? Well, if he hadn't supported Sepp Kuss, I think it would have been Kuss that went. And in my view, he'd have gone to UAE Team Emirates in support of Tadej Pogačar. I know, it's crazy, but then again, so is this world that we love and enjoy. It does get to a crazy season about now because there's a lot of teams who've left a lot of speculation on their team sheets, not least Ineos Grenadiers. And when I kind of look at the fact that Luke Rowe is going to be out of contract pretty soon, that's a man who I expected to be at the Vuelta. He expected to be at the Vuelta. He is here in this race, but how much room do they need? And surely Luke Rowe would be just very much part of everybody's plans if they could have him. Tour of Langkawi, stage 7 tomorrow, and it's an early one. Okay. 04:50 in Europe, 10 to 4 in the morning in the United Kingdom. Look, it's going to be worth setting your alarm for. It's stage 7. Stage 6 winner, of course, Arvid Decline of Tudor Pro Cycling, making some big noises. What will the weather be like? No idea, but it's worth having a look at. And of course, we've also got the Franco-Belge circuit. That's live after us here on Eurosport 1. But tomorrow, Langkawi Chaussee Bean and Brian Smith are your hosts. They're probably tucked up in bed right now.
Well, not together.
Well, no.
I believe they live in different countries.
They
so
do.
they're
It's a bit difficult.
Different continents. That would
Mind
be-
you, the air miles, amazing. Minute two.
That's the rumour that you can't start. No, let's keep it to cycling rumours for the moment.
Yes, let's. Best of friends and colleagues. 55.8 kilometres from home. And we have about a minute. We've had a breakaway for the opening 2 days. We've got another one today. And the peloton have been distinctly mean with them in terms of time allowed, because the stages are quite short, aren't they? Quite short and sharp.
Yeah, they are. I don't know if they're being mean. I think it's just the kind of terrain doesn't really allow them to be given more than a couple of minutes before it becomes a bit too difficult to organise a chase. Although it's not super technical, you can never really see very far in the front on this type of road. So give them a couple of minutes, let them have their exposure for the day, and then reel them back in 30, 20 kilometres to go.
That's better. At the moment, our quintet of riders up front, they're on this long descent. Actually, it's not as long as some of the descents that we've had today, but this will bring us to a rolling plateau as we head back towards the coast. So we've kind of come up inland to take on the mountain. Mountains generally are. That's the way you have to do it. Come inland. Well, heading back down towards the coast, as you can possibly see on the rider's left-hand shoulder. The wind that had threatened today looks to have ebbed a little bit. It's not as strong, doesn't have the strength that we thought it would. It could be that big escarpment that is over towards the rider's right, so left-hand side of your screen at the moment, is shielding them because it's a northeasterly. So what would be a coming up over the top of that hill is possibly missing us at the moment, which explains why the trees are so static. But yeah, let's see if it has an impact later on when we do test the sort of less protected areas once we get in. And that is rapidly approaching. The sort of pace that we're going to have to get us to that little spike, I reckon that we've probably only got about 40 minutes of the day left.
Maybe a bit longer.
41.
50 kilometres to go on this. Yeah, maybe not going to ride 50 kilometres an hour. For
No,
enough.
that is true. My maths is I've defeated me. I've gone the other way. And we got these little climbs.
So we've got this descent going to end soon, and then it's going to be gradually uphill for the next 10 kilometres. So that ought to slow things down a little bit.
Let's have a look. Their rolling pace on the plateau is going to be around about the 40, 42 kilometres an hour. Then there's another descent that takes us into town, and that's a significant one of about 10 kilometres. So we dealt with the last 10 Ks very, very quickly. You know what? I'm going to run a clock. Oh, that's the thing I do. I might win the Volleyball at the end of the day. That's what it's about. 54 seconds is your gap, and Luke Plapp yet again, the Australian champion, sporting that national jersey with great pride. Whether he'll defend it this year, I haven't actually looked at the Aussie Championship course, but he's ridden with aplomb. Distinction this year has Luke Plapp, very much ridden into that jersey. I'd like to have seen him been given his own chances, to be honest, because he's a quality rider. But again, he's one of those in the service of others, and he's done a good job, hasn't he?
He's doing a good job. Unfortunately, he's on a team where everybody does a really good job. So in certain races, he's designated as the domestique. In other races, he's allowed his own chance. And it tends to be the kind of one-day races where he gets more of a chance.
Yeah.
They haven't kind of established where he is as a GC rider yet, and these kind of 5 to 6 day races. So he's doing his job for the moment, and it toughens him up.
Certainly is doing. He's looked great, vital cog in the machine. You saw from the bull rushes here, we've got a bit of a tailwind, so it looked reasonably constant as well. So maybe I've been fibbing to you about the wind. Right, here's your day. Now we dealt with the first climb. Mr. Hammerschmidt came along. Went on to the second climb, and this is where we are right now. So a little bit in advance of that graphic, actually. So we're just going to climb up this sort of valley, this pass, if you will, in the high ground. An extremely beautiful looking church just upon the peak as we will come by. And then we're going to be playing with Opatia, our finale today. We'll be there before you know it. In fact, it's only about 30 k's away, so I'm actually wondering whether that little headland village, that little citadel upon the peak, is actually where we're going to. Let's see. So this is your breakaway. It looks like it's going to be a fast finish, but I'm not sure it's going to be one for the sprinters. Have you thought about the kind of day it might be, and not least because the last time that we did this, it wasn't necessarily the sprinters that had all the fun.
I think this is an Alexander Kristoff day. You know, sorry to have stolen your tip.
Good for you. No,
I think 400 meters at 10-15%. He's okay with that.
Yeah.
It's not long enough, and I knew X will put him in a decent position at the bottom as well. So give him that. He's got sliding room. He's got a couple of kilometers. If he does slide it back a couple of places, a 400-meter little kind of climb shouldn't be too fatal to them.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that, to a certain regard, that this is a day that Campbell Stewart could actually cope with. I'm not sure it is. I think he might have to wait for Zagreb. He's a shoo-in for victory in Zagreb, by the way. Just get your bets on now, because. Or your predictions, I should say. I think you'll go extremely strongly. I don't have any information on this rather charming little place. It looks like a seminary, to be honest. Not only the church, but I can't hear any music from the monks. Not the monkeys. I know what that sounds like, but yes. Maybe it's a silent order. Who knows?
Maybe it is. It'll certainly be touristy. We'll be there soon enough because so the organisers have 3 schedules, 46, 44 and 42 kilometres an hour, and we're ahead of the 46 kilometres now. So in roughly an hour and 5 or 10 minutes we'll be there.
We'll be there before that. I'm running a clock. 50.8 kilometres. Yeah, you're right. But it is Bahrain, as you can see, also just bouncing on the pedals here, X. So we start to ponder then who it might be. Louis Bendixson will be working for Alexander Kristoff. In fact, the entire team will. There he is. Do you know what? Alexander Kristoff always looks laboured, but he's always there. He's one of those you think, oh, he's suffering. But he's not as much as those around him.
Well, maybe not as the most stylish of riders, but effective. There are riders who or as what is it? Jumbo said about Pogacar, he was like a butcher's boy. I think that kind of comment you have to be careful with. It sometimes upset people.
Yeah, well, a butcher's boy, the great now sadly departed Tony Doyle. That's how he started delivering for a butcher. So we had a big flat basket which was piled up with meat, which he'd go circulating around Teddington in London, bless him. And that's where he developed his riding style, because apparently he had another job as well and had to be quick on the old steel steed. 50 kilometres from home, the gap's 56 seconds, just speculating as to who might actually cope with the gnarly finish.